Saturday, everyone. I'm out for what I think is my 16th camp, and I'm down in a small town called Jevington on the South Downs. I'm heading on about a 7.5–8 mile hike in total from Jevington out to the Long Man, which is a chalk figure on the downs, and to hopefully camp out tonight up at the top of, I think it's Wilmington Hill. It's a local high point with a trig point. It's quite open up there, but there is an area that I've seen that does have some tree cover, some shrubs, which I think should be quite promising. A dead cat's fallen off. After my recent exploits with my GoPro batteries giving up the ghost, rather than replacing the 2 batteries that were running out at 50%, decided to invest in an Insta360, which is the camera I'm using today. Did try it out recently up in the Yorkshire Dales and didn't really get any usable footage at all. Most of that was ignorance on my behalf, through not reading the instructions properly though, and having it set completely incorrectly. So hopefully this time will be a more successful outing for the Insta360. Just nice to not have to pan the camera around to show you the horses, which are over there to my left. Don't have to move the camera, I can do it in post-production. Makes it a lot easier, hopefully a lot quicker. It also means no longer have to send the drone on ahead to pan round with me while trying to walk past the drone and pan it at the same time, which is something I really have not perfected one bit. At least with this, I can walk past the camera and pan the shot in post. So fingers crossed it works well. So I'm using the Osprey Atmos AG65 rucksack again today. Was thinking of going with a lighter weight flex capacitor, but this bag has got its own integral waterproof cover, and the forecast for tonight wasn't very good. It was supposed to be showers, some of them fairly heavy, but the forecast has improved quite dramatically through the day, and at the moment it's a beautiful sunny evening, warm sunny evening, so hopefully I won't get the rain. I don't mind carrying the extra 1.5 kilos of rucksack for the security of knowing all my gear will stay dry should it rain. South Downs is an area that have been on my radar for a long time. In fact, since I first started wild camping. It's not somewhere that I've actually bothered coming to. Living almost on top of the North Downs are nearly as big, but not with the same views as you get up in the south. But I've tended to elect to do the usual Peak District, Wales, Yorkshire Dales areas rather than come down to the South Downs. So it's really quite nice to come down here now after a lot of planning and actually get a camp done down here. Hopefully get a camp done down here, because from what I've read, seen online, it can be quite busy. So hopefully I'm going to find a relatively quiet, secluded spot. Otherwise I'll be hiking back to the pub near the car and staying down there. This is definitely quite a busy route. I am on the bridleway, but I've seen horse riders, quite a few cyclists, some hikers and some walkers down here. It's definitely not as quiet as the wilds of Scotland are. And then again, it is down in the southeast of England, which is really busy. Lots and lots of people. So it's not really surprising. Well, I finally come out of that byway that was in like a cutting couldn't really see very much at all, and I come out into the open now and I can see where I'm heading, which is up over there, Wilmington Hill, and the long man is on the far side. So a bit of climbing to go, not quite halfway yet. Down in the south of England, I mean, in fact probably most of England at the moment, we've been suffering a bit of a drought. Rainfall has been between about 50 and 65% of where you'd normally expect it to be for this time of the year. Reservoir levels are low, and it means that everywhere is very brown, very orange, and a lot of the trees are starting to lose their leaves already, even though it's the very beginning of September. Not as bad as the drought of 1976 though. Not had standpipes at the end of the roads, but I'm sure if we don't get some decent rainfall over this winter to refill and replenish our stocks, we're going to start next year with a deficit, and then next year may be a bit more of a problem for us with water. Fortunately, I'm conserving water. I've only brought 2.5 litres with me. I'm planning to dehydrate myself. That means I don't have to carry so much water and I don't have to wee so much. I've brought my water filter with me, but I don't think there's going to be many options around here to get any groundwater to filter. Just over to my right there's Hunter's Burr Long Barrow, which is a long barrow on the north facing slope of Wilmington Hill, which is the hill that I'm climbing at the moment. Unfortunately, you can't actually get to it. There's a fence between the footpath and the long barrow, which is odd because I thought all of this was open access land. There doesn't seem to be any easy way over there though. After a bit of a slog up, I'm now coming to the top of Wilmington Hill. It's 214 metres high. So not a particularly high hill, but high for the south of England. There's some nice views over there. I've walked to it from the car park in Jevington. It's a nice car park. It's a South Downs Park Authority car park, free to stay in for 23 hours or less. There's a penalty charge if you stay for more than 23 hours though. There's another car park over to my right at Wilmington Priory, which is only about 3/4 of a mile to get up here to the top of Wilmington Hill. And again, that's another free car park, but I elected to use the Jevington route. I've often heard people say the South Downs Way is the way of 1,000 gates. It definitely seems like that. There's an awful lot of gates to go through on this walk. And this point I'm at now is one of the 3 potential camp spots that I was considering. It's in the corner of a field. You've got far-reaching views over to the west, the north, and over to the east, but no real views down to the south. It's also quite exposed up here. There's no real cover, and I don't know whether you can hear it, but the wind is picking up quite a bit. I think the forecast tonight is to get up to potentially just under 20 mile an hour wind. But what I am at is the trig point, the 214 metre trig point of Wilmington Hill. So while I'm here, I'm going to walk over to it and touch it. Hello Trig Point. Glorious views, and you see the sun glinting off the sea to the south, which is lovely. Reservoir over there in front of me. Looks like the levels are quite low in that. So I'm coming up on another one of my potential spots now, just coming up to the top of Windover Hill. and down there to the right there are some tumuli, which if it gets windy will be a great place to camp. Nice flat base to them, out of the breeze. Downside with that is that I won't get to see the sunset or the sunrise, depending on how cloudy it gets, of course, because at the moment it doesn't look like I will see very much of a sunset or a sunrise. But that's another option, probably better than the option in the corner of that field. This is right at the very top of Windover Hill. I think it's 188 metres. Could probably just about pitch here, maybe down in this little hollow or on one of these little peaks, quite exposed. Sun coming up that way, going down that way. Reasonable view along the downs to the west. It's definite possibility up here. So it does depend on how much this wind is going to pick up. Now, a third option is down this way, a little bit further south, just down the ridge slightly, where there's some shrub cover as well. So I'm going to walk down there, have a look, scout that out, and then make a decision where I'm going to pitch. It's just around 6 p.m. now, so I've got a couple of hours until sundown. So still plenty of time to choose somewhere. So I'm now down to what I thought was going to be my prime spot, and to be honest I think it may well be. Over that way you've got views along the South Down Ridge with the high point of Firle Beacon in the medium distance over there. You've got the town or hamlet of Jevington just down to my right there in the bottom of the valley. Unfortunately it sounds like there's some sort of party on down there with loud music and giggling and laughing, so hopefully that's not going to go on into the wee small hours, because the sound is carrying really quite well. Down that way to the south we've got the bottom of the valley and eventually the sea that I can't quite see because it's getting a little bit misty. And it's a little bit more out of the way here, so I'm much less likely to meet anybody than if I was up on the top of the hill. And you can see across into the next valley there and the next little spur of the downs, which is quite pleasant. Only real downside is that it's not completely flat. There are flatter areas like this one here, which I think I'm just going to have to pick one of them and make sure that I'm feet down the slope. So this looks like as good a place as any. So let's get set up. A quick scout around, make sure there's nothing on here that's going to punch or anything. Now it's done. Now to do the insides. Always gotta love when you get to camp and you can start putting a brew on with some tea and doing your dinner. Particularly when you're trying something new. So, and the venture foods, mushroom and pasta. I've not tried this one before, and I've got 2 of them, so I hope I like it. Not that I'm eating 2 today, you understand. Also, for dessert, have an out of date vanilla dessert. So it's only about 9 months out of date. At 25 past, that'll be ready. But I'm sure there's not really much in there. Desiccated vanilla. It's not exactly going to be poisonous, is it? Need to boil up a little bit more water for that though. Yeah, gotta love getting the tent up before sunset when you're somewhere there's very few people around, and settling down to enjoy yourself at camp. It's like camping at a campsite, I think. Nice and quiet. You can just rest. Don't have to be rushing around like on a typical wild camp. One little bit of faux pas today. There's always one, isn't there? I've forgotten to bring beer. I have no beer. I've got my flask, so at least I have got some alcohol, but no beer. No beer to taste the sunset. But then again, no sunset either, so maybe I don't need the beer. Right, that's me packed up. Spent a little longer than I would normally because as the sun came over the hill, it started playing on the tent. And because I've got to go into work, I wanted the tent dried out as much as possible before I headed off, so I don't have to do too much of it drying out later. So as usual, or as always, leave no trace. Small area of flattened ground in front of me there. Taking all my rubbish out with me as well. Right, let's make tracks. So I had a relatively restful night. Because I was on a slope, I did find I kept on sliding down to the foot end of the tent. It wasn't too bad, and the sound from the revellers in Jevington died out by about 8:30, which was very good. The wind picked up overnight. It was quite blustery around midnight to around 2 AM. That woke me up a couple of times. But temperature wise, I didn't actually measure the temperature, but it definitely didn't get very cool last night. Spent most of the time laying outside of my quilt. Far too warm to keep that on for too long. So all in all, another excellent wild camp. And this morning, I actually got the unexpected sunrise. Woke up, sky was starting to get bright, came outside and saw the sun come up. So that was really nice. Does mean it's a lot warmer this morning though, and very, very humid. And while I was outside, I saw a deer come past. And fortunately, I managed to video it on my phone. See what the quality's like, whether I include it. Because of the haze last night, I hadn't realised how much of the sea you could see from here. Along that southern horizon, you've got about 110, 120 degrees of the sea on the horizon. Yesterday it just looked like distant mist. I became aware of it last night when I saw what must have been a ferry or a cruise ship crossing over there in what I thought was the sky. It's a beautiful spot. It really reminds me of the Devil's Punch Bowl at Wye, but a lot quieter. Look at that down there. Just seen two walkers. First people I've seen since the start of the walk yesterday. After I said how busy it was down here compared to Wales, and then didn't see anybody else for ages. So I'm now just coming to the end of another wild camp. I think this is the 16th one. And I know I say it every single time, but it has been thoroughly enjoyable. There's something so lovely about being out in nature and staying out in nature overnight, sharing the space with all of those creatures and critters that are out there all of the time, but we don't often hear or see. It's really settling for the mind. So, great wild camp again. Do like the South Downs. Definitely busier than some other parts of the country, but pick your spot and you can get well off the beaten track and not see anybody. So definitely a recommended location. I might try and find a few more locations along the South Downs because it's only a 90-minute drive for me. I'm beginning to think the South Downs Way must be sponsored by the local gate makers, Jackson's Fences or somebody. Nearly back at the car park, another 500 to 700 metres to go, which is fortunate really, because I'm used to the GoPro with a 128 gig card recording in 4K. The Insta360, I've got the card that came free with it, that I think is a 32 gig card, and it records in 5.7K, so I'm down to about 1 minute capacity left on the memory card. So perfect size for the walk, and hopefully I'll get back to the car and nothing else is going to happen that I'm going to wish I could be recording. So I say farewell to you all now. Happy camping to you all, and make sure you get out there in the wilds to see nature, the green trees, before we get into the autumn period and all the leaves fall off. So bye bye all. It's always a relief when you get back to your car where you've parked it and find that the windows haven't been stoved in or the tyres slashed. It's also a relief that your walk has finally ended, but also there's great sadness that the walk's ended. Back to the grind, but hopefully not too long before another adventure.